We're here to protect you and the ones that you love. It's a good feeling to know that our efforts aren't going unnoticed.
It actually brought tears to my eyes to know that we have this support.
You're welcome. I must just say, you're welcome. It's stressful, but we're not going anywhere.
Welcome to another edition of Bucknell Men's Track and Field Through the Decades. Tonight we have the decade of the 1990s. Joining current head coach Kevin Donner and one of our current student athletes, Brendan Bodish. Brendan is a senior from Lincroft, New Jersey, and we thank Brendan for taking the time to be on the show tonight. I want to thank Geisinger as our sponsor for tonight's event. They do a great job, as always, with our student athletes, and they've done a fantastic job throughout the pandemic, so thank you to Geisinger. My name's Todd Newcomb. I'm going to introduce our guests. We've got a great group, and then I'll turn it over to Coach and Brendan, and we'll have some fun. So here we go. Buckle in. Our first guest from the class of 1991 is Paul Austin. Indoors, he was the East Coast Conference champion in the 35-pound weight in 1990. He was a Patriot League champion in both the shot and the weight in 1991. He set the school record for the 35-pound weight while at Bucknell, and that mark currently stands 10th on the all-time list. Outdoors, he was the Patriot League champion in the hammer, shot, and discus in 1991. He set the school record for the hammer while at Bucknell, and that mark currently stands 9th on the all-time list. He was also a 2-year letter winner for the football program and part of a very talented offensive line for the Bison. Our next guest from the class of 1996 is Jim Heisman. Following graduation, he placed 5th in the hammer throw at the 2004 U.S. Olympic Trials. Indoors, he was an All-East selection in 1996. He was an All-Patriot League selection that year as well. He set the school record for the 35-pound weight while at Bucknell, and that mark currently stands 9th on the all-time list. Outdoors, he was an NCAA qualifier, an All-American in the hammer in 1996. He won the Patriot League title and in the discus in that year as well. He was an All-Patriot League selection outdoors in both 95 and 96. He set the school record for the hammer while at Bucknell, and that mark currently stands 2nd on the all-time list. Jim was inducted into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame in 2016. Our next guest from the class of 1998 is Brian Torres. Indoors, he was a 2-time All-East selection as a member of the 4x800 relay units in both 96 and 1997. He was a 5-time Patriot League individual champion, including 3 times as a member of the 4x800 relay and twice in the 800. He was a 3-time All-Patriot League selection. Among Bucknell's indoor all-time top 10 list, he currently ranks 8th in the 800. Outdoors, he won Patriot League titles in the 800 as a member of the 4x800 relay. He was a 3-time All-Patriot League honoree. And among Bucknell's outdoor all-time top 10 list, he currently ranks 7th as part of the 4x800 relay and 10th in the 800. He won the Ronald J. Pete Pedrick Award at the Athletic Department's Senior Awards Dinner. Our next guest from the class of 2000 is Ron Hess. Indoors, he was a 2-time All-East selection in the 1,000 in the year 2000 and as a member of the DMR in 1997. He was a 6-time Patriot League individual champion indoors, including 3 times in the mile and twice as a member of the 4x800 relay. He was named the Patriot League's track athlete of the meet at the 1999 championships and was a 3-time All-Patriot League selection. Among Bucknell's indoor all-time top 10 list, he currently ranks 3rd in the 1,000 and 6th in the 800. Outdoors, Ron was a 3-time Patriot League individual champion, including twice in the 800. He was named the Patriot League's track athlete of the meet at both the 1999 and 2000 championships and was a 3-time All-Patriot League selection. Among Bucknell's outdoor all-time top 10 list, he currently ranks 3rd in the 800, 4th in the 1500, 7th in both the mile and as part of the 4x800 relay, and 10th as part of the DMR. He was a 5-time Patriot League Track Scholar Athlete of the Year selection, including 3 times indoors and twice outdoors. He was chosen as the male Scholar Athlete of the Year in the entire Patriot League among all sports in the year 2000. He was a 2-time National Academic All-American. He won the Bison Club Award at the Athletic Department Senior Awards Dinner, and he was inducted into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame in 2000. Not in 2000, he graduated in 2000. Our best of the class in 2000 is Dave Pomfret. Indoors, he was a 2-time All-East selection in the pole vault. He was a Patriot League individual champion in the pole vault in 1988, 1999, and 2000. He was named the Patriot League Field Athlete of the Meet at the 2000 championships. He was a 4-time All-Patriot League selection. He set the school record for the indoor pole vault while at Bucknell and currently stands second on the all-time top 10 list. Outdoors, he was a 3-time Patriot League individual champion in the javelin, was a 3-time All-Patriot League honoree. He set the school record for the outdoor pole vault while at Bucknell and currently stands third on that all-time list. He also ranks 8th on the all-time list for the javelin. He won the Christy Mathewson Award at the Athletic Department Senior Awards Dinner, and he was inducted into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame. Brian Scheiding from the class of 2000 as well as our final guest. Indoors, he was all East in the long jump in 2000. He won Patriot League individual titles in the long jump in both 1999 and 2000, and the Patriot League crown in the triple jump in 2000. He was a 2-time All-Patriot League selection. He set the school record in the indoor long jump while at Bucknell and currently ranks 3rd in that category among the school's all-time top 10. He also ranks 9th in the triple jump. Outdoors, he was a 4-time All-Patriot League selection among the school's all-time top 10 outdoor list. He currently ranks 10th in the long jump. And Brian won the Bradley N. Tufts Award at the Athletic Department Senior Awards Dinner. So, Coach, a lot of accolades, a lot of talent on this call. Let's have some fun.
Oh, yeah, that took a long time. Do we have any time left here to actually talk? So that's a lot of awards. But anyway, guys, thanks for coming on. I've met all of you at one point or another, some of you more than others. And it's great that we're on here. These have been a lot of fun, reconnecting with people. And I love hearing about the history of our program, especially before I arrived here. And let's go at it. So before we get going, I'm going to ask each of you to tell us about yourself, what you've been doing since graduation, employment, family, things like that. We'll start with Ron.
Thanks for having me, guys. So I live really close, actually. I'm in West Milton, but Lewisburg School District side. And in terms of a career, I do investment real estate. So that includes like flipping houses, and I have some rental properties as well. But it was a weird path to get to where I'm at. I studied engineering for Bucknell, and I worked about 6 years as an electrical engineer on radar, airplanes. And I got my master's again at Bucknell in counseling. And it was a school counselor, was able to reconnect with the sport by being a coach there. So I absolutely loved that piece of it. And so I guess I'm on my 20th season between cross country and track with Lewisburg, and did the counseling, but all along I was kind of messing with houses, did some flips on the side. And about 5 years ago, went full time with that, left the school district, but I still coach. In terms of family, I have 3 boys, now junior, sophomore, and in 8th grade. And I'm married Jessica Quintana, who graduated in '99.
And regarding his coaching, he's at Lewisburg High School, and they have won the last 2 state championships in cross country. So congratulations with that.
Thank you, Coach.
All right. Brian, I kind of know what you're doing, but tell everybody else here as well. Brian Scheiding.
Okay. Well, again, thank you. Just like Ron said, thanks for having me. After listening to all of those accolades, I feel a little bit out of place with all these studs that I'm on here with. But I'd say that I took a little bit more of an untraditional path once I left Bucknell. So I left Bucknell, went to LaSalle University in Philadelphia, my master's degree. I was able to get a graduate assistantship there in coaching track. I finished up the MBA, wasn't quite sure still what I wanted to do, but coaching track was natural for me. I loved it. I loved working with the kids. So at that time, I applied for every single NCAA job that was available that summer. I ended up in the town of Rolla, Missouri, which was the engineering branch of Mizzou. Basically, it was a small Division II program. I was there for 6 years. And during that time, I met another coach from another university, and she caught my eye and ended up marrying her a couple years later. So I moved 6 years later down to Joplin, Missouri, which is where I'm at right now. And after a few years of transitioning down there, we combined the programs, and I'm the head coach over both men's and women's programs at Missouri Southern State University. It's a Division II program. And we have a lot of fun. It's a great program, and I really enjoy what we do. Again, not quite as traditional as most people that are getting out of Bucknell, but it was a great path to where we are right now. So I'm married now to former Stephanie Rice. And as I said, she was a coach at our main rival college, which is only about 25 minutes away. So when we met her, we got married 3.5 years later, we have 2 children that are 7 and 11, William and Lillian. And that's about it. That's where we are right now.
How'd the national championships go last week?
They went well. Our women ended up placing 9th as a team, and our men were 10th, and we had 14 All-Americans. So it was pretty successful. We did. The kids did great.
Congrats.
Thank you.
So, and Brian Torres, tell us your story since Bucknell.
All right. Again, thanks for having me. It's great to see you guys. Brian and David, I'm not sure the last time I saw you guys, but it's great to see everyone. So since leaving Bucknell, I had moved back to Jersey for a couple of years, then spent 10 years in DC, all the time doing construction management. I got my civil engineering degree from Bucknell, moved back to New Jersey in 2009, moved back home. I had met my now wife. We got married in 2013. And so now I live in Skillman, New Jersey, which is just a little bit north of Princeton, right outside Princeton. Still in the construction management field. I currently work for a construction management and engineering firm that specializes in pharmaceutical and life sciences. Keeps me pretty busy. In what we jokingly call our spare time, I own and operate a race timing, running and event management business that my father had started back in 1982. I took that over in 2014. So on our weekends are full, still keeps me busy in the sport. Yeah, that's been my life since.
All right, excellent. And David, tell us what's going on with you.
Again, kind of like Brian, maybe non-traditional, graduated in 2000 in biology, and felt things were going well enough when I finished up at Bucknell in track that I wanted to continue competing for a while. So I was home back in New York for a little while, but then skipped coasts out to California and continued to train for the Olympic trials for 4 or 5 more years. Had a few injury setbacks, life got on, but during that time, I also did my master's degree in kinesiology at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and fell in love with San Luis Obispo at that time, and pretty much actually day one when I stepped out here. And then been here ever since. For 15 seasons, I coached either jumps, throws, and multi-events, some combination of the two at Cuesta College, which is a community college in California. Had a lot of fun coaching there, kept me really active in the sport for a while. Then 2015, when my son was born, life got full and the afternoons got busier. So I stepped away from coaching at that time. Also in 2006, started a health club, which is what my wife and I own and operate. Up until a year ago tomorrow, we've been closed for 12 months now due to the pandemic, but we own and operate that club and here in San Luis Obispo, and keeps me busy with somewhat of a coaching role because I still work as a practitioner doing personal training and then all the other operations. And then in 2018, we had our daughter, Clementine. So we've got 3 and 5-year-olds that are keeping life full.
All right, excellent. And Jim, tell us what's going on since Bucknell.
Hi, thank you for inviting me and having me. Since Bucknell, I graduated with a bachelor's in biology. Worked for a year with 5 of my fraternity brothers for an environmental remediation company. We basically were laborers for a company that cleaned up hazardous waste. I did that for a year. We lived in New Jersey. Most of the guys left, so I moved back to New York. I started training again. While I was training, I worked as a school district nighttime security guard. I worked in a deli. Finally got a job as a chemist working for a personal care company, making creams, lotions, shampoos, stuff like that. I was actually in that industry for about 16 years. During that time, I qualified, went out to the 2004 Olympic trials. As you mentioned, I came in 5th. A couple of years later, I was working for a smaller company running a small manufacturing facility up in New York. And right before nationals, I was actually throwing my best. I had thrown really well. I had thrown over 70 meters 4 times in a couple of weeks before nationals. Then, like a lot of everybody else, got really, really busy at work. Went out to nationals. It's the first time I hadn't made finals, probably since my freshman year in college in a meet. So it was that's when I knew it was time to stop throwing. That same year, I met my current wife, Teresa, and we live down in Wake Forest, North Carolina, and we have 2 dogs. We don't have any kids. And then about 2.5 years ago, I was working in a manufacturing facility. They made commercial windows, store enclosures. It was a glass manufacturing plant. I was working there as a supervisor, and I just wasn't really enjoying it so much. So I quit work and started taking classes online at 44 years old. And I'm now a certified tumor registrar. I work for UNC Health down here in North Carolina, which is the state healthcare system. I work in the cancer registry. And basically my job is to make cliff notes out of people's medical records as it pertains to all of their diagnosis and treatment for cancer. So I really enjoy my job. So I'm pretty happy. And luckily, it's kind of was pandemic proof because it's a remote position. The whole industry, at least the cancer registry, is remote. So we're lucky in that I didn't have to suffer any kind of job loss through that. So that's what I've been doing.
All right, that's interesting stuff. And Paul.
Well, thanks for having me as well. I moved back to the Reading, Pennsylvania area. I was a Governor Mifflin grad, and all 4 of my kids have gone to Mifflin. Met my wife, Brenda, best wife in the world here about a year after I got out of college and got married right away. I was a mechanical engineer at Bucknell and started out, with a couple of different companies in that role. Became the engineering manager at Graco Children's Products, making some of your high chairs and swings and things like that for the babies you guys have had. Moved on from that to a plant manager job with another company, a Danish firm. So I got to travel a little bit and became director of operations there. And I'm currently a general manager for a thin films coating company in Allentown, PA. I've been there about 2.5 years and just love it. So things have gone really well that way. My oldest son just gave us a grandchild last year. My youngest daughter is at West Virginia in her freshman year of college. So we're almost done and moving on to thinking about retirement.
All right, great. So we're gonna go back to Ron here. And Ron, tell us about the recruiting process. Did I miss somebody? No? Okay. Ron, tell us about the recruiting process and how you ended up at Bucknell with the track and field program.
So Mark Hume, who was just an amazing middle distance runner for Bucknell, he actually grew up in the same town that I did. And he was coached by the same high school coach that I had. And so when I started going through the process, I was a pretty strong runner in high school and was starting to get a bunch of mail and stuff like that. My high school coach said to me, you gotta consider Bucknell. And I was kind of like, well, I haven't really heard from them. I was looking at all these just big schools, and actually Mark's brother, who was also like a D1 stud runner type, was in and out of town. So he pulled me aside and said, let's go for a run. And I guess it would have been like at the beginning of my senior year. And he just told me about his experiences and what a difficult experience he had through college. He actually like lost a scholarship, changed schools midway through, and just was an amazing runner, but just had a real difficult time. And then he told me about his brother's experience and how amazing it was at Bucknell, and had said, you know, I would have went there too, but I couldn't get in because of the grades. And so he really just sold me. And then my high school coach said, like, listen, out of respect to me, you're going to take one of your 5 visits. You're going to go to Bucknell. And I was like, well, I have enough respect for you to do that. So I went to Bucknell, and then when I got there, I recognized the difference in the program. I recognized the coaching. That was the other thing that my coach had said to me was, you're going to like the coach that's there. He's disciplined. He's a moral guy. I know his personality will match with yours. So he'll demand a lot out of you, but that's what you need and that's what you want. And so I found that to be true. When I went there, I really liked the team environment. I liked the small size of it, and saw that it was top notch, and really just connected with Coach Goulden. So that's kind of my recruiting process.
All right, good. And David, how'd you end up at Bucknell?
I grew up on Long Island and was looking around at schools kind of all over and put an application in, and had gotten a recruitment letter from Bob Schombacher, who was my recruiting coach. But then I never actually really got to perform for Bob, because that was the summer before I arrived. He stepped out to resume his teaching position up in Williamsport, I believe. And we were reminiscing on that at the Hall of Fame induction 2 years ago almost now. And, so I got recruited, came out for a visit, and, you know, was super impressed with all the facilities and everything that it had to offer for academics. Was not too far from home. It was actually the only school north of the Mason-Dixon line I had applied for, and it felt like a really good fit. Not too close to home, far enough away from home, but not a plane flight away. Was pretty fortunate to get accepted, because then every other school I applied to, I did not get into. I was told I should have a safe school, and I don't think Bucknell was really on that list of the safe school, but it worked out okay.
Great. And Brian Torres, what's your story?
Yep. So, growing up, I'd say middle school or so, I'd known a bunch of people, but a few people that had gone that were alumni of the program. When my father started the race timing business in '82, he actually partnered with Dan Brennan, who was, was an alumni of the program. And then just being in the industry and going to races with them, working races every weekend, we would always stumble upon people like Brian Harshman, Jamie Kempton. So I was always familiar with the program, familiar with people in the program. I'd gone to the summer camp, cross country camp, my junior year, and then the summer going into my senior year as well. So again, I was familiar with the school, the campus, Coach Goulden, but not set on going to school there. My father and I had planned to kind of take a weekend. I think it was like President's weekend leading into winter break, and kind of go around and see schools. We had scheduled Penn State, and then we figured on the way back we would, hit Bucknell on the way down 80 back home. And so we planned that out, met with Coach Goulden, and I remember this pretty vividly. It was a Saturday night, and I met with a couple of the kids that are currently in the program, and we went to dinner, I think, and they were telling me that there was a bunch of people that were missing, and they were off at a last chance meet trying to qualify for IC4A's indoor. They were at Seton Hall, and everybody was waiting for them. Of course, before cell phones and all that, everybody's waiting for them to come back and did they get in? Did they not? How'd everyone do? And the 4x8 team, I remember, was one of that group that was there, or that was out at Seton Hall. And they came back pretty late. I met with them, and they had just barely qualified for IC4As. But I remember the excitement in that group of being able to qualify and just being pumped for it was just pretty exciting for me. Even I wasn't even part of the team at that point, but I remember how genuinely excited and pumped they were for it. And I just remember thinking, like, I want to be part of this. Like that, these are a good group of guys. I really want to be a part of this. And that really just kind of just locked it up for me. Went through the process, got in, and called coach and said, Coach, I'm in. I want to be one of your guys.
All right. Great story. Yeah. And Brian Scheiding, tell us your story about Bucknell and the recruiting process.
So I think some of this I'm going to have a fairly unique perspective on because I work with college kids every single day in the athletics atmosphere. But it was funny that Brian said before cell phones, because I refer to before cell phones, before technology on a daily basis with the team. I was a better coach before cell phones came along. So I lived in a fairly small neighborhood in central Pennsylvania, down in York, PA. And Bucknell had kind of a reputation in our neighborhood. Though it was really small, we had 2 kids that went on to go to Bucknell. And I remember growing up, and our one neighbor would always wear her Bucknell sweatshirt around. And we just thought it was the coolest thing. I didn't know anything about college, but I knew she was wearing this Bucknell sweatshirt. And then another neighbor ended up going there, and she played soccer and track. Her name was Becky Wagner. And she just lived right across the street from me. So she would tell me a little bit about it. And she was a couple years older than me. So the next couple years, developing into track, and then you start getting all of those letters in the mail. One kind of came through with Bucknell, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. I could go to the same place that these other guys went. But to be 100% honest, and I tell the kids this on a daily basis when I recruit them, I think when you walk on campus, and when I drove over that hill coming over 15, just seeing the stadium on the right-hand side, pulling into campus, it just had just this feel to it. It just had a really magical feel walking into and driving into campus. And we came in, and it was a weekend where there was a number of different recruits. And for the life of me, I don't remember a single one of them, but I do remember walking down the backside of the indoor track. And I thought I was cool, hot stuff. And I had a backwards hat on. And I remember Coach Golden walking up beside me. And he was an intimidating figure if you didn't know him, but he was a very intimidating figure, at least for me, he was. And he just walked up to me, did not make any eye contact with me, and just said, "Son, if you want to be a part of this team, you better turn that hat around or take it off." And it scared me, but it was kind of an instant respect type thing for Coach Golden, and really just, I fell in love with the campus the minute that I stepped onto it. And we were there for one of the home indoor track meets. And it was I think it was the year, and you guys can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but it was either the year or the year after the indoor track had just been resurfaced. So it had kind of that new track smell to it. And I still remember that very vividly. But, it was one of those things. I knew as soon as I walked on campus, I knew this was the place I wanted to be. And I was fortunate enough to make it work out.
All right. Great story. And Jim.
So my maybe a little bit different way. I guess everybody's got a different way to or a different angle to their Bucknell story. When I was done with when it came time to applying for college, my only motivation for going to school was to continue throwing. I enjoyed throwing was it for me. And so I remember going through, I think it was the Peterson's catalog. It was about 1.5 feet thick. It had all the colleges in the country and everything like that. And biology was my favorite subject in high school. So we went through, my dad and I would go through the catalog and pull out a bunch of schools where biology was one of the top 3 majors by population, by amount of students that were in the program. And that's how we started picking out numbers. We must have sent out, I don't know, 75, 100 letters to track coaches at all these schools. I actually heard back from Coach Schombacher at Bucknell first. Being from Long Island, I applied to Stony Brook, was my safe school. I applied to Worcester Polytech up in Massachusetts, Bucknell, Colgate, and Wake Forest down here in North Carolina. So Worcester Polytech was my first visit, my official visit. We drove up there. It was only a day trip, and even though it was in the city, and I'm not a big fan of the city, walked on campus, and you're just awestruck by being on a college campus. I said, I'm going here, no doubt about it. No need to go anywhere else. This is where I want to go. But so in talking back and forth with Coach Schombacher, they offered me an official visit. So we went up in January, I believe it was. We go to visit Bucknell, and it's the same thing as others said. As soon as you walk on campus, and it was just gorgeous. And after being there, I can't remember if there was a meet or not. It was a long, long time ago. My memory's not that good. But I really enjoyed my trip. I stayed overnight. It was great going to the cafeteria, everything like that. And obviously, I was definitely going there as soon as I was done with my trip. So part of the trip was we went into the financial aid office. They put together like a mock financial aid package, and I was going to need a lot of financial aid to be able to go to Bucknell. And they put together a package. I think it was about, and it was all academic money. My dad didn't want me to get athletic money just in case you got hurt. We heard horror stories about them, pulling scholarships away and whatnot. So we get financial aid offer that was almost a full ride academic money. I had done pretty well in high school. So we were all set. I get back home 2 or 3 days later, my application was into Bucknell, and then we just play the waiting game as everyone else does. I heard back from Colgate. I got rejected, which worked out well for me, competing against their guys. And I was waitlisted at Wake Forest down here in North Carolina. So I get accepted into Bucknell. We get their financial aid offer, and I got offered a $2,500 Stafford loan, and that's it. So my mom's in tears. My dad's upset. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to go to Stony Brook. So I called Coach Goulden, explained to him what happened, and said, there's just no way we can swing that. So Coach Goulden said, all right, well, let me see what I can do. He goes to find out that it was amazing. He's like, I've never heard of this before, but between my visit and when they got my application, they had doled out all their financial aid, so there was none left. He goes, don't worry about it. Give me some time. A couple of weeks later, he comes back. Not quite as much as my preliminary package, but it was enough for us to swing it. And if it wasn't for Coach Goulden, I wouldn't have been able to go to Bucknell. So I owe him everything. Everything pretty much in my hammer throwing career anyway was because he got me into Bucknell.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome. And Paul, you're on mute, Paul. You're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had family friends who were like parents to me, and they, Jack and Shirley Levengood, and Jack played football at Bucknell at one point in the old days, and he was a PIAA official, so he knew Steve Jarrett, and who was the throws coach before Bob Schombacher, and he gave him a call and said, hey, Paul's interested in looking at Bucknell. And I had looked at Lehigh, Lafayette, and all the, close schools, and was considering Drexel and Army. But I as well went for an overnight at Bucknell, and just, loved the whole campus. I loved the environment and the people that I was with. So the assistant football coach and Steve Jarrett came to my friend's house with my father there, and had me sign to play football and do track there. My father couldn't believe that I was getting that kind of money to basically go to school and do sports, but it was almost a full ride. So and also an academic scholarship based on my grades, but it was just a great experience the whole way through.
Very good. How about our student athlete here, Brendan? Tell us how you ended up here.
For me, I mean, it was all like through Mantush, I guess. She like reached out and offered me, you know, like all this good stuff at Bucknell. So I was kind of like, you know, all I wanted was to run, I guess. That was like my main focus. So she offered me to come. I saw the Blue Orange meet, I think was one of my first visits here.
Yeah.
And that was like just great. I saw, like, I could tell there was like great camaraderie on the team. You know, the campus was awesome. So it all kind of just worked out. You know, Mantush made it like a really easy yes to say. So I guess, you know, it was just Mantush really, and then Coach A stole me. But,
okay.
You know, I could just tell like as soon as I got here that it was like great team environment, great campus to be on. So
great.
Coach
Mantush. So, all right. Well, while you're on there, Brendan, why don't you ask these guys some questions?
Okay, so my first question I have for everyone is, what advice would you give me or any of the other athletes that are in our program today about the college track and field experience at Bucknell?
You got to pick someone there, Brendan.
Oh, okay. I guess we could start with Ron. He's in my top right here.
All right. So I was thinking about this a little bit. I think one of the things that served me well, and one of the thoughts I have about it is just that in this environment, you have basically the perfect setup as an athlete. And so I suggest that you just take advantage of every opportunity that you have. I mean, where else will you have such a protected environment where your food is made for you? You know, you don't have to do the dishes. You got someone coaching you, someone telling you, training you. It gets much harder if you continue on with that outside of school. So definitely take advantage of those opportunities. Also for me, one of the things that I could say is I know a lot of people, you know, and not necessarily from Bucknell, but just a lot of runners in general, where they didn't maybe necessarily do that. And it made it difficult for them to kind of move on later on. I know for myself, you know, I had a decision to make after I left school, whether I was going to continue to try to pursue running, whether I was going to do the degree. And, you know, it's definitely a hard decision after you spent, you know, 8-10 years dedicating your life hours and hours a day to try to make that transition. And you know, for me personally, it was extremely helpful knowing that I had given it what I could give when I was there. It helped me be able to make that transition. So that's one thing that I'd say would be something that you should focus on, is just take advantage of what you have.
Thank you for that. I guess next we go to Brian Torres.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you know, the advice that I would give you guys is you know, just enjoy it. Just enjoy the time that you're there. You know, it goes by pretty quick. You know, but you're going to spend a lot of time working hard, studying hard, you know, doing everything you need to do to get yourself right. And doing all that, sometimes you kind of, you know, lose track of the whole experience. And, you know, sometimes, you know, looking back on the career, you know, it might've been nice to kind of take a step back and just kind of take it all in, right? A lot of the people that you're with, they're going to be lifelong friends. I know I still got a great bunch of Bucknell alumni, ones that I went to school with, ones I didn't go to school with. We still talk on, you know, probably a weekly basis. All that doesn't come just, you know, by luck. You know, Bucknell brings in some very, very good, great people. The program, you know, brings in some great people, and you know, putting all that together just creates a really great experience in your 4 years. So, you know, take it all in, enjoy the time you're there, work hard, push hard. Yeah, so.
Thank you for that. Now I guess we can go to our other Brian.
Yeah, I was thinking about this question as well quite a bit, and I enjoyed Bucknell. Every minute of every day, I enjoyed Bucknell. It's a pretty special place, and oftentimes, kind of, I think Ron kind of hinted at it, Brian kind of hinted at it. You don't realize that until you're not there. Ron made the comment about you're in college. You have the cafeteria, you got your dorms, you have your coaches, you have your professors, and taking a step back, enjoying it, like Brian said. It's honestly, I'm not just taking your thunder, guys, but this is exactly what I was thinking. The same thing. And most of my memories of Bucknell were shared with the guy with the long hair over there in the corner, because Dave and I were roommates for 3 out of 4 years. But just enjoying the time you're there. You won't respect it even close to it while you're there, because as soon as you leave, you're going to want to go back. There's probably honestly not a minute a day that goes by that I don't think about the time that we had back when I was at Bucknell. And maybe it's because I'm a coach, or maybe I'm trying to sell the same thing to my teams, but I've never found that in any of the 3 universities that I've been at since I've been at Bucknell. But it's a really special place, and you need to just take a step back, realize that. And, as a student and as an athlete, you have to put everything, into workouts, into your studying, which I probably should have done a lot more of that myself in both avenues. But you have a precious few little time, precious 4 years, sometimes 5, I suppose now, to actually be in that environment. So giving it everything you have, because to be honest with you, once you leave, it only gets harder. But just enjoying the time that you're there, and respecting the fact that you're in a pretty special place, and you guys are really lucky to be there.
Thank you for that. And then, so next we can go to Mr. Austin.
Sorry. I would say, to immerse yourself in your craft. For a thrower, it may take a different description of the position that you need to be in, or a different way of describing or learning how to get into that technique or position. And for everybody, it's a little different. So the more input you have, maybe it's the easier for you to receive that into yourself and to learn that. For me, once I hit a position once, it's easier to repeat it. But just to get to that one spot, I could be told 10 times by a coach how to do it, and then somebody comes over and describes it a different way, and I get it. And so I don't know if it's the same for other positions and other runners, but it's about taking it all in and learning from everybody else, being open to that.
Thanks for that. And then I guess so next we can go to David.
Stay as long as you can. Don't ever leave. It's a golden 4 years, and if you're lucky, you might stretch it into 5. Maybe you can blame it on the pandemic. I think Ronnie gets the nod for the smartest guy in the room again, for taking it all in, being present for it. My story to this is just at the start of my senior year, Coach Goulden pulled me aside into his office and had a little sit down heart to heart with me about what would be possible if I focused better, if I cut out a lot of the extracurricular things, if I skipped a party or two. Things were pretty tight back then, as most guys will remember. He just very honestly saying that I wouldn't regret it if I kind of put everything in, and if I didn't, I might have regrets. And it's a conversation I think about all the time, and I had it probably yearly with athletes when I was coaching. That he saw something in me, he saw potential that was untapped. And I think every coach sees that in every athlete. And unless you get a light shined on it to say, what would be possible if you committed to these couple extra behaviors that you'll remember. Because I can tell you, I remember the Patriot League championships when I excelled. I remember the meets where I hit new personal bests and school records. And I don't remember a single, maybe a couple. Don't remember very many nights out at Bucknell. I don't remember the parties we went to. I don't remember that stuff the same way that I remember the glow of a great meet or performance. So I'd say, take it all in, but put it all on the line for it, and don't lose sight of the most important things, the things you'll reflect back on, like us 20 years later, and it's not going to be a party. Better parties were after college.
Thank you for that. And then Mr. Heisman.
Just to build on what everybody said, they've said some really good things. There's outside of the excellent facilities they provide, the trustworthy coaching staff that you have there, and sending you any competition that you can qualify for. Those are kind of things you can't control. There's a reason a lot of us had the success that we did. In my case, it's because we lifted 3 times a week when I was at Bucknell, and every Sunday I was there and I never missed a workout. I never missed a practice. Well, except for 1 week due to a bow saw incident, but that's probably a conversation for a different time. But take advantage and develop your work ethic now while you can. There's, as everybody said, where you're at, you're protected from a lot of outside influences outside of school, all things that come with real life once you get out of school. So if you develop your work ethic now, and that's what I did when I was at school, and a lot of these guys did, and it carried us through life after school. And the only other thing I could say is, and I definitely didn't take it, I didn't learn this lesson until after I was done competing, is don't besmirch the value of getting rest. You need to get sleep. You can have a lot of fun, you can practice and compete as hard as you want, but you need to get rest. Rest helps you recuperate. And like I said, I didn't learn that until many, many years after I got out of college. And probably would have done a lot better athletically anyway, had I known that beforehand. But definitely develop your work ethic now, and it'll carry you through the rest of your life, for sure.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
So let's stay with Jim here, and tell us your most memorable experience as a member of the track and field program.
That's hard. I'd have to say, I'll go quickly. I tend to talk too much. I have 2. Qualifying for the Junior Nationals as a freshman in my first year that I ever touched or threw the hammer. And then senior year qualifying, for the NCAAs and being an All-American. But historically, definitely getting into the Hall of Fame at Bucknell, that really meant a lot to me. I really appreciate that.
That was an exciting night. I remember that. So. And Paul, what's your most memorable experience at Bucknell?
Well, there were a lot of championships and a lot of trips off site, but our senior year, when we locked up the Patriot League championship at the end of that track meet, we took Gary Soika for a ride and threw him in the steeplechase pit. And later on at the senior awards banquet, he came and told the story and cited me about, the fact that we threw him in there, but he had gone back to his house to change for a formal that night and had to put his tux on and forgot and went and got in the same car that had the soaking wet seats from the steeplechase. So luckily he had a spare tux, which most people don't, but that was a fun story, and it just ended a career that was, wrought with successful championships and great people and a lot of fun. So I appreciated that.
Good story. And David, most memorable experience?
I hadn't even thought about the Junior Olympic Championships until Jim just mentioned it. I don't know when the last time I thought about that. That trip was pretty amazing. We drove out to Indianapolis with Coach Gould, and man, the memories of that trip are just flooding back right now. However, prior to the Hall of Fame induction in 2019, which is definitely a highlight. And I still think about that and think about how fortunate it was that I won in 2019 and not 2020 when I got to actually go back to campus and see everything. Was the Patriot League Championships indoor in 2000 when I set the school record and won the Patriot League Championship and set the Patriot League record all with one jump. There was also a national qualifier. It was just this, epic time. I've got it on film. Brian's dad recorded it, and I keep it on my cell phone because Brian recorded it off of his TV because it's still on VCR and we never converted it. There's just a special feeling that came out of that it was just this culmination of so much work. And at the most crucial time, everything fell together really, really nicely.
Great. And Brian Torres.
Yeah, I mean, there really are just so many. I spent after seeing the questions, I spent some time thinking about this. One quick funny story, and I might be the only one that remembers this. It was pretty personal to me. Was I guess it was known that I wasn't the quickest one off the line. I don't know what it was. Just I had this habit of rocking backwards right before the gun, and Coach Goulden decided he was gonna try to fix it one day. And so it was after practice, and I think he told the middle distance group and the distance guys that they weren't allowed to leave until I beat him in about 20 or 25 meter race off the line. And we went at it had to be 35 or 40 minutes. And I'll tell you, deceivingly, he had a pretty quick shuffle. And I couldn't do it. I could not beat him in a 25 meter race. And finally, he just gave up and just said, you know what, just keep doing what you're doing and you guys get out of here.
That's good.
Yeah. But, more so, the 4x8 team and that group, and for the 4 years that I was there, I was lucky enough for 2 years to hold, we had our 4 guys ran together for 2 years. And so Kevin Schilling, Mark Beaver, Steve Razor, and myself. And we got really close. We were like brothers. We did everything together. And I just remember every time we stepped on the track together, relays are just fun. Every time we stepped on that track together was just a lot of fun. And I remember just so many races together. And I remember, the point towards the end of my freshman year of really just the 4 of us sitting there. I think we're at George Mason or IC4As and just kind of looking at each other and thinking, we're really putting together something good here, something special. And, we go on sophomore year to win Patriot League's indoors, be all East, do it again my junior year. Kevin Schilling graduated, we brought Goose in. And then, do it again the following years. Ronnie was part of that team later on. I think Ronnie went on to win 2 more. I think we won 5, Bucknell won 5 4x8s indoor in a row. But, just that 4x8 team just all together was just every meet, every time stepping on that track was just really special for me.
Good. And Brian Scheiding, most memorable experience?
I don't know that I could narrow it down to just one, to be honest. Most of my memories of Bucknell come back to, the meets, not only ones that we hosted, but the ones we traveled to and camaraderie that was built, much like these other guys are saying. But I think if there was one meet that was always really special and really fun, it was the Colonial Relays trip. just the time of year, the venue that it was at, the teams you don't often get to see, and just getting away from campus for a number of days, staying in the hotel, walking across the street, going to the venue. It was always just a really neat time of year. And every time spring hits, I kind of think of that same need. But if there was one other one that may seem really insignificant, but it was for some reason significant to me, was, I don't remember what meet it was at. And Dave and I, it was on the road. Dave and I decided to follow Coach Golden to lunch because he would never eat lunch with the kids on the team. We would get off the bus and we would disperse with our meal money and go different places. And I don't know why, but Dave and I just decided to follow Coach Golden because he was going off on his own. Dave, you may not even remember this. I don't know if you do or not, but we ended up following Coach Golden into a Taco Bell. And, you know, it was just some roadside area. There's a bunch of different restaurants, but it was just Dave and I. And then we ended up sitting on either side of Coach Golden at this restaurant. And we forced him to talk to us. But it was just kind of neat. And just, you know, spending that time, and for whatever reason, that holds significance in my mind, because you didn't often get to do that. You know, there's very little one-on-one time. And I wish I would have had the come to Jesus speak that Dave got to have at the beginning of the senior year, because that probably would have been better. But anyway, there's so many of them. But that little Taco Bell scene, that was special to me and still is.
That's neat. And Ronnie?
For me, I think it would have to be IC4A's my senior year. We were at, for indoor, we were at Harvard, and it was 1,000 meter. So it was probably one of my best races I ever ran, placed second there. But a crazy thing happened. Basically at about 150 meters left, someone stepped on the back of my shoe and it just blew off my foot. And we were all kicking at that point. And just the feeling of, I don't know, like time slowed, because it was a kick. I was, you know, at the end of a race, running, performing really well. I felt the track on my foot. So it was just a really surreal thing. Time kind of slowed down. I saw all of the group of our kids, you know, just going crazy. Army was actually there. They were cheering for me because they didn't have a guy in there. And it was just a crazy experience. And I ended up kicking pretty well with just one shoe on. So that would have to be maybe the most memorable thing for me.
I actually remember that race. I was coaching at St. Francis.
Did you see the shoe fly off?
The shoe went about 20 feet in the air.
Yeah, I remember that. It was crazy.
I'm like, oh man, I feel sorry for the poor guy, and it ended up being you.
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy.
All right, good. So Brendan, I know you got one more question here.
So yeah, my second question for all of you, what advice do you have about networking and like finding the right job after we're done with Bucknell? I guess if we want to just snake back, we can start with Ron again.
Sure, absolutely. I found that career services was just amazing for me. I got 2 different degrees from Bucknell, spaced out about 8 years apart, and both times they were kind of integral in helping me. I took advantage of like some of the interviewing that they did. They would set up mock interviews. So that was extremely helpful for me. They also brought people onto campus. So that was really cool. They actually brought companies on. I'm not sure whether they still do that, but I'd suggest you take
job fairs. Yeah,
they do that. Okay. Take advantage of that if it's available to you. And they also set me up with someone who was in the field that I was trying to pursue, that was actually at a high level, that had graduated 15, 20 years before me, and set up a call with this person and, like a high up in a company. So that was just an amazing feeling for me, but to be able to talk to someone in that industry. And then, I myself, once I got that first job, about 3 years later, another guy on the team, actually Eric First, he was looking for a job. He had studied physics and kind of changed his mind about going further. Physics is kind of tough to get a job straight out of school if you're not going for a master's, you're not going for a doctorate or whatever. And so I was still in contact with him, and I was able to talk to my boss and just really vouch for him. He ended up hiring him on, and he actually stayed with the company all these years, and he's doing phenomenal there. But I really do feel like it is a network. So try to take advantage of the, people and friends that you have, there.
Thanks for that. Then we go to Brian Torres next.
Yeah. So I think we heard everybody's kind of backstory here, and I think there's if one thing, after being out of school for quite some time, if there's one thing that you've kind of heard from everybody, it's do what you love. Find something you really want to do. Don't be afraid to go after it, and don't be afraid to take risks. While I have a career in what I went to school for, I also own a business in a field that I love, and that's, running and racing. And I think everybody here, from what I heard, has that in their life. And we're all a pretty big family here. So, don't be afraid to reach out to us. Every one of us is willing to help our family as we do, right? But yeah, go try to do what you want to do. Don't be scared to go after it. Take some risks, and find what you love, and do what you love, and stick with it.
Awesome, thank you for that. And then we go to Brian Scheiding next.
I think Bucknell's pretty unique in that it does prepare you to be successful, really, in whatever field you want to be. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and much like Ron was saying, went through the job fair and went through career services, still really didn't know what I wanted to do, and truly Bucknell carries a little bit of weight, really, with whatever you want to do. So going on to grad school, I feel like it prepared me much better to be successful in grad school. In fact, I enjoyed my graduate school education probably because I was able to study and to learn much easier over grad school. But just gaining the life skills on every day and the work ethic that will make you successful is what you really need to focus on. And just like coach, I guess you are a coach in some aspects, Brian. But just like Torres said, follow your dream, do what you want to do. Don't do something just for a paycheck. That's I think one of the biggest mistakes that people do. They go to college and they pick a degree because they think they're going to make the most money. You can be successful in anything you want to do, as long as you have the work ethic to do it. But follow what you want to do. If you would have told me that at the age of 43, I'd be sitting behind a desk in track and field office, coaching every single day, I probably would have laughed at you. But that's what I ended up doing a couple of degrees later, and I really love what I do. So, just take advantage of what you have in front of you, and use what you have.
Thank you for that. And then Paul Austin.
Yeah, I think you have no idea what the future holds for you right now. So, I always thought my first job, I was going to be there until I retired, and I was there for 6 years before they sold the company and moved it to the South. So, with change comes opportunity. If you work really hard, people notice. And I'm always on the lookout to help somebody I used to work with find a job or find something better, or even think about hiring them if I have a need, right? So that's networking. That is people helping each other to fit, a gap. So don't be afraid to reach out to people, reach out to us, and look down every potential job that you can, that you're interested in.
Thanks for that. Next we go to David.
I think you probably could hear from the diversity of current employment and the thousands of different jobs that everyone on the group here tonight shared. Be open to to kind of all of it. I went to a very memorable senior year speech I went to They brought in a senior VP from Merrill to speak to graduating seniors, to talk to them about graduation, potential careers in finance. I was a biology major, but I was sitting in on other interviews. I interviewed for Fidelity just to get interview experience, to sit in front of someone and get grilled in something I had no really knowledge about, really. But the presenter, he shared that on average, and that was at that time in 2000, on average, in the next 5 years after you graduate, you will change jobs 5 times. You will get married, buy a house, potentially have your first child. That didn't work out for me. I took a little longer, but Ron was there. I'm probably right out there if he's got a high schooler already. Is that there's so much that happens in the 5 years immediately after school. And, reach back for the mentors you had at school, but mostly just rely on the fact that whatever you leave Bucknell with has prepared you for everything. You've got every tool, all the work you've done to prepare for meets, to prepare for finals, is laying the foundation that if you apply those same principles, there's nothing you will not succeed at.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And then we can end with Jim Heisman.
I'm probably the worst at networking that you'll meet. My first 3 or 4 jobs came out of wine ads in a newspaper. But at the time I was looking for jobs to work around my training schedule because I was training for the Olympics, starting my 2nd year out of school. But like a lot of people have said, we said you develop your work ethic while you're in college. I worked hard at all the jobs that I had. I got noticed on some of them. Worked my way up in one job from a bench chemist running a manufacturing facility, with a few dozen employees under me. I didn't meet my wife until I was in my mid-30s. So there's the biggest thing is to not feel obligated to have things happen in a certain amount of time. I was 44 before I, stumbled into a job that I liked, and I love my job now. And it was based on my wife and I took an adult education class in medical billing, and I found that just trying to figure out what code applied to, what diagnosis or what procedure a person had, it's like figuring out a puzzle. And I like trying to figure things out. I did a lot of that when I ran a facility trying to fix machinery or figure out how to put labels on bottles or whatnot. So don't let yourself, my first job, I felt like, oh my God, I have student loans that are going to start in 6 months. I have to get a job. And that was, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't, it wasn't a real, that's where I wasn't going to stay. But once, we've all pretty much said, keep your mind open. And when you find something that you like, pursue it, go after it just like you would training, or studying for your finals. But that's about it. Like I said.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right, guys, we got one more question here. Guys, this is my 20th year here at Bucknell as a head track and field coach for the men and women. And I'd like you guys to give me some advice. I'm always trying to better myself. And some of the advice that I got from some of our other groups earlier, I've used, and it's helped us a lot. For example, we had a Zoom job fair with alumni, and that was one of our alumni's advice. And I thought, that's a great idea. And we had over 30 alums and about 50 of our athletes on there. It was really cool. But with that said, give me some advice about being the head track and field coach of Bucknell. We'll start with Ron.
Well, I'd start by saying you're doing a great job by doing things like this. Like, what an opportunity to kind of just look at the legacy of this program, link in some of the guys who've done it before. So, I really appreciate that piece, Coach. And I think you're doing a great thing by doing that. I was thinking about this, and I just came up with something kind of simple. I kind of use it myself, but you got to figure out how to keep it fun but at the same time, keep it serious and keep it interesting. So that's kind of a hard balance to make, because, you're a D1 program and you have serious athletes there, but having it be interesting and fun, that's the other piece of this that everybody's been talking about, those memories that they have and what made it great for them. So that's sometimes a hard combination, but I think if you get those things right, you're going to really have a successful program.
Great. Well, thank you, Ron. How about you, Brian Scheiding?
Well, you and I have the pleasure of seeing each other about every year at convention, and we have a lot of these conversations often. And honestly, I have to say that I'm just really impressed with what you've done with the program, over the years, and the caliber of student athletes that you continue to pump out. And as far as giving advice, I thought about this one, and I'm not going to say there's nothing you can do better, but I mean, you have doing a fantastic job reaching out to alumni on a regular basis. I've gone through and watched a lot of these Zooms. I don't know if the other guys have or not, but I thought it was really neat catching up with a lot of the history of the program. But, I think that continuing to function in the challenges with the financial side of higher education is difficult. Finding a way to continue to reach out and get the alumni to continue to support is really important, which I think we do overall, as alumni at Bucknell. But just continuing to keep the caliber of the program, continuing to keep the caliber of the student athletes. I don't have any wise words for you, because honestly, I think you're doing a great job with what you're doing.
Thank you, Brian. Even though you turned me down as an assistant coach about 10 years ago, I won't hold that against you.
Listen, my wife has 30 family members within an hour radius of this place, so it'd be challenging.
I get it. I know. So I offered him a position about 10 years ago. So turned us down, but that's okay. All right, Brian Torres, any advice?
Sure. I mean, I'm going to kind of echo what's been said before. I think, Coach, you've done an incredible job, a stellar job so far. I know you. I was there when you had to come in and do that transition in a established program, a legendary program, and I thought the way you handled it and the way you took all that in, understood where we were, what we are, and kind of roll that into what you do was pretty great. Continuing to involve all of us in a program that we all love so dearly, you've done a great job at that. And with that, continuing to bring in the caliber of student athletes that we all recognize, right? I mean, we saw it in all of us. We were all there. We see the same things in the kind of kids that you're bringing into the program too. So it still feels familiar to us. The results obviously are still there. I mean, you're still doing some incredible things on the track, in the field. So I mean, I don't have much to add. If you want to get a bank track, that would be great. But yeah, I mean,
that big donation.
But yeah, I mean, keep doing what you're doing. I think you've been a successful coach in an established program, and it's been fun to watch.
Thanks, David.
Stumping me on this one a little bit. I would say, in thinking more about it, and thinking about the challenges of what coaching must be now in what feels like an even more distracted time. We didn't have social media. We didn't have a cell phone. I talked to my parents once every 2 weeks for 5 minutes. I didn't have these outside influences. There was very much the Bucknell bubble. So I'd say, any of the continued coaching tools you can utilize to enhance and maintain focus for the student athletes, and to yourself remain as approachable as possible for the student athletes. I think that was one thing that it wasn't until maybe my senior year where I felt that Art Golden was approachable for me. I felt he was untouchable as a freshman and a sophomore. And it was part of his way, but I think there were things I could have asked him or gleaned from him as a coach had I felt more comfortable going to him.
Okay, great. And Paul?
Other than just general support, we don't know how good we can be. You've got to push the athlete. You've got to really set the expectation. I think the worst thing that I could have done in my 4 years was to disappoint my coach. I really looked up to all my coaches and looked to them as father figures, and I wanted their approval and I wanted to do right by them. So again, setting that expectation and support, I think it's just critical.
Okay, great. And Jim?
I think I don't think there's that I could give you much advice other than don't recruit anybody that could throw the hammer over 209 feet. I don't like seeing that at all.
I want to.
But the program that you've established is excellent. As long as you continue to give the athletes the facilities and the opportunities to get into the competitions that they qualify for, and support them at whatever level they may be at. Not everybody's going to win a Patriot League meet or maybe even medal at a dual meet or a small invitational meet, but support them, just continue what you're doing and support them at whatever level they're at. And just to touch on something that Paul had mentioned earlier, and I had this a lot when I was training outside of college with my coach, we had a lot of heated discussions where he would tell me to do something and I would do it. And he was basing it on what he had told all his other throwers that had come before me. And sometimes it made me just do some really horrific results. It would set us back a couple of weeks. So if you notice, or your coaches notice, or even, if anybody, they seem to get stuck, and that they're capable of more, try to find a different way of not necessarily coaching them, but try to give them a different perspective, or come at them from a different angle to try to get them to do something. And sometimes that just clicks, the light bulb goes off, and it could be all the difference in the world to them athletically.
All right, great. And Brendan, I'm usually not going to ask you for advice too often, but I'm going to give you a shot at it here. Give me some advice as head coach. And I promise I won't hold it against you at practice tomorrow.
I guess for right now, just being for us as much as you can. Not to say that you haven't been. I think that all the coaches have handled this time very well, but just keep doing what you're doing. Be there for us. Try to keep us motivated during these tough times, and just try to get us through it together. I think it would be a great thing to have some good competition this year. So
sure,
just being there for us, I guess.
Just to give you guys some background, there was no fall athletics at Bucknell or the Patriot League, and then the Patriot League indoor conference meet was canceled. They decided to have 10 schools in the same building wouldn't be in the best interest of the pandemic. We did have 3 indoor meets scheduled that all got canceled. We did have 3 cross-country meets in the winter scheduled that all got canceled due to breakout at Bucknell and then a breakout at some opposing schools. And then we did have the Patriot League cross-country championships a couple weeks ago at Lehigh. That was our first meet. And I did have a girl go to the national championship this past weekend in cross-country. That was her second meet. And literally our first track and field meet is scheduled for this weekend at the University of Virginia. We're going to run Virginia and Navy in a triangular meet. We were supposed to go to Navy this past week, but they were put on a pause. after they competed all winter and fall. They're on a pause now, so they might not even be there this weekend at UVA. So, but we are scheduled to go to UVA, so that will be our first track and field meet. And hopefully we can string a bunch of them together and have an outdoor season. So, all right, Todd, it's all you.
All right, thanks, Coach. So a couple closing comments first to Brendan. Brendan, thank you so much for taking the time out tonight to be here on the call. I hope you saw what I have definitely seen on every one of these Spike Shoe calls is how special the program is and how lucky you are to be a part of the Spike Shoe program. And knowing that it doesn't end when you graduate from Bucknell. It's one of the most cohesive alumni groups that we have in all of Bison athletics. It certainly helps that there have only been 2 head coaches in 50 years of the program. So the people are really stick together and support each other. So take that back to your teammates and just, when it's a tough day, remind them, we're part of something real special here. And I think you can see that on this call. Wish you best of luck at UVA this weekend and also at Patriots later in the year. Have a great season. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for being here. It means a lot to me, you all.
All right. And to the alums, guys, thank you so much for not only what you did while you were here as a member of the Orange and Blue and how you competed and represented both the program and Bison athletics, but more importantly, and Brian mentioned this earlier, Brian Scheiding, thank you for what you've done since you've graduated for the program. The support we get from our alumni group and the Spike Shoe group is at the top, and it has to be in order for us to be able to continue to have a program with 85 student athletes in it. So thank you guys for doing that and keeping that at the forefront. And then for those of you that tuned in tonight at home to watch, we thank you for doing so, and go Bison. Thank you, guys.
Have a good night, guys.
Good luck, Coach.
Thanks a lot. Good night. Good luck, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, everybody. Great to see you.
Great seeing everyone.
Take care.
Good